Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Kol hanshama, the hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, Kol Hanshama, the Hallelujah, 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 Hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Kol hanshama, te hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Kol hanshama, te hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Kol hanshama, te hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Kol hanshama, te hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. I'm Rabbi Susan Abramson, coming to you from the sanctuary of Temple Shalom Emeth in Burlington, Massachusetts. And I'm thrilled by the fact that we have more than half of our temple board in attendance for us this evening, the first time we've had more than 3 or 4 people here in the sanctuary. And I'm joined by my colleague here, Cantorial Soloist Ben Silver. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful occasion that we're celebrating this Shabbat, the installation of our new board, and thanking the board that's going out of office. And I have to say that this is a really special time in our temple's history, because every single board member has been so wonderful and so caring and so supportive of everybody and so open and flexible during this past year, that we're really, really, really blessed here at Temple Shalom Emeth to have such a wonderful group of leaders for our congregation. And I know that this coming year is going to be just as good. And so we have a lot of hope and enthusiasm about the future. And so with that, we're going to continue our service with the lighting of the Shabbat candles, which you may find on page 120 and 121. I'd like to invite our outgoing president, Shelley Rosenbaum-Littman, to light the candles for us this evening.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the lights of Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Amen, 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 amen,
now that we've lit the lights of Shabbat, we're now going to continue with L'cha Dodi, welcoming the Sabbath bride on page 138.
L'cha Dodi, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. l'cha dodi, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, בשם ותפארת ולתהילה. l'cha דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. l'cha דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. Verse 5. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי. אורי, אורי, שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. l'cha דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. Last verse. בואי ושלום, עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה וצהולה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה, l'cha דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. l'cha דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. בני שבת נקבלה.
And now that we've welcomed the Shabbat bride, we're now going to continue with the second section of our service called the Shema and its blessings, as we rise in body or spirit for the Baruch Hu on page 146. Praise Adonai, to whom praise is due forever. Praise be Adonai, to whom praise is due, now and forever.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamavorach. Baruch Adonai Hamavorach Leolam Va'ed.
Now we're going to continue right through to the Shema, the watchword of our Jewish faith, on pages 152 and 153. Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. Blessed is God's glorious majesty forever and ever.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed.
Please be seated.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה Asher Anochi Mitzavcha Hayom Al Levavecha Vishinantam Levanecha V'dibartam Bam V'shiftecha V'veitecha Uvleftecha V'derech Uvshavtecha Uvkumecha Uvshartam Leot Al Yadecha V'hayu Letotafot Bein Einecha Uvshartam Al Mezuzot Beitecha Uvisharecha Leman Titzkeru V'asitem Et Kol Mitzvotai Yitem Kiddushim Lelohechem Ani Adonai Elohechem Asher Hotzi Etchem Me'eretz Mitzrayim Leot Lachem Lelohim Ani Adonai Elohechem. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Take to heart these instructions with which I charge you this day. Impress them upon your children. Recite them when you stay at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you get up. Bind them as a sign on your hand and let them serve as a symbol on your forehead. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Thus you shall remember to observe all my commandments and to be holy to your God. I am Adonai, your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai, your God. Adonai Elohechem Emeth.
And we now continue with Mi Chamocha, the song the Israelites sang when they crossed the Red Sea to freedom from Pharaoh's grip, on page 158.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש. נורא תהילות עושה פלא, נורא תהילות עושה פלא, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע ים לפני משה ומרים. זה אלי ענו ויאמרו, זה אלי ענו ויאמרו. אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד.
We rise for the tefillah, the next section of our service, which you may find on page 164.
Anna na 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 Adonai. Anna na 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 sfatai tiftach. Anna na 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 ufi yagid. Ufi yagid tehilatecha. Anna na 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 Adonai. Anna na 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 sfatai tiftach. Anna na 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 ufi yagid. Ufi yagid tehilatecha. Anna na 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 Adonai. Anna na 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 sfatai tiftach. Anna na 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 ufi yagid. Ufi yagid tehilatecha. Anna na 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 Adonai. Anna na 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 sfatai tiftach. Anna na 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 ufi yagid. Ufi yagid tehilatecha.
Page 166.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elhei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham v'Elhei Yitzchak v'Elhei Yaakov v'Elhei Sarah v'Elhei Rivka v'Elhei Yaakov האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, ואל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימו ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. Page 168. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מכלכל חיים וחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו וישני עפר, ניחמוך בעל גבורות, ומידו מלך ממית ומחיי ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להייחוד הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל.
We now continue with Shalom Rav, a song for peace, on page 178.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov b'einecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael b'chol et u'b'chol sha'a b'shlomecha. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam.
We now continue with the Misha Bera, Get Well prayer, which you may find on page 371. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal those who are ill. This evening we think in particular of Judy Wasserman and Phyllis Burlow, and at this time, if there are names of others you'd like us to keep in our hearts and our minds, we prepare to recite the Misha Bera prayer. You may say their names aloud.
Cassidy Chestnut. Sharon Lippman.
We also think of all of those around the country and around the world who are still suffering from the COVID virus. May the Blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for all of their health to be restored and all of their strength to be revived. May God swiftly send all of them a complete renewal of body and spirit. And let us say, Amen.
Misha Bera Avotenu Mikor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Berach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Le'imotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
We pause for a moment of silent prayer.
And now please join me in the singing of Oseh Shalom, which is back on page 180. Oseh Shalom Bimromav Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen. Oseh Shalom Bimromav Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen. Oseh Shalom Bimromav Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen. Oseh Shalom Bimromav Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen.
This might sound strange, but I am happy to announce that our temple leadership has not followed in the footsteps of our ancestors as they presented themselves in this week's Torah portion. I am actually thrilled to say that we don't share their attitude, their outlook on life, or their actions. This Torah portion is called Korach. Korach was a Levite who gathered 250 Israelite chieftains to rise up in rebellion against Moses and Aaron. They were angry that Moses had given too much of himself and given himself too much power in the community. They wanted that power for themselves. Lahavdil, as we say in Hebrew, we are just the opposite. Not only has our temple been blessed with a very unified, caring membership, but our leaders have been so exemplary and proficient and kind and well-intentioned that rebelling against them would be the furthest thing from anyone's mind. We are extremely grateful for each person who chooses to take on a leadership role in our congregation. We realize the sacrifice involved in juggling this responsibility with all the others we have in our busy lives. I suspect that if anyone rose up and demanded that they be given a leadership role in our community, more than one of you might graciously oblige them without much of a fuss. No one in this room, I know. Tonight we thank those members of our temple board who have taken on the holy task of leading our congregation. Thanks to your leadership and dedication, our congregation has thrived and will continue to do so in the future. Last year, someone had the brilliant idea to have board members thank each other instead of listening to me drone on and on about everyone. So I'll be calling up those who are here and be adding in videos a little later from those who could not be here this evening. So our first job this evening is to relieve all those who will not be continuing in their present positions in the coming year. I would like to call up Shelley Rosenbaum-Littman to thank Tom Balash, who served as a member at large this year.
Tom was one of our at-large members, at-large directors on the board. He immediately volunteered to take the Community Security Service training to help keep our synagogue safe. And he and his family have been active in our services, helping to keep them meaningful for all. And I'm sure, Tom, that we can count on you to continue to be active in the future. Thank you.
Now I'd like to call up Andy Feit, who is not continuing in his role as communications chair. You walk up the steps.
Oh, no, I'll come this way.
Already rebelling. All right. Andy, even though I've only known you for 3 short years, I knew you were one of the only people who could put up with putting together the announcements with me. It was well worth all those late night phone calls. Well, at least it was for me. I don't know about you, to have beautifully put together, very professional looking weekly announcements. You've been 100% reliable and made sure all of our activities were presented in a well-written and concise manner. You did such a great job that after 1 year, we're bumping you up to president.
Yay!
But more about that later. For about the next 10 minutes, you are officially relieved as communications chair, but not as the announcements editor and writer. And as long as you're up here, I'd like to invite you to thank Ken Lifton, our outgoing immediate past president, for his many, many years on the board and his tremendous efforts in leading our congregation.
Ken has been actively involved on the board, spanning a number of positions for more than 12 years, predating my arrival here. His knowledge of nearly all aspects of what it takes to make TSC run is invaluable, from details of the annual budget to the inner workings of the security systems, the internet, to his guidance on proper process to ensure the board is adhering to all of our bylaws at every meeting. I think he may have more combined knowledge of all these things than the rest of the entire board combined. His pragmatic point of view he brings on issues has served the congregation well in his roles as treasurer, financial secretary, first VP, president, chairing the security committee, and the last 3 years as immediate past president. I know that while he's stepping down from his official board seat, that he will stay very involved and that I can count on him to keep the new president in line. Thank you, Ken.
Next, I was going to call on Jeremy Kasanov, continuing in his role as first vice president, to come up and speak to Shelley Rosenbaum-Littman, who is ending her almost unprecedented 3-year term as Temple president. But he just informed me that he is under the weather, so I am calling up our second VP, Val Jacobs, to stand in for him and read his remarks. So come on up, Val. And yes, Shelley, come on over. Thanks.
Shelley, words cannot express our deep gratitude. Take this off?
You can take it off.
Our deep gratitude to you for braving the presidency of our board for an unheard of 3 years. It's a record that I expect will stand for a very long time. Because it is a demanding job, the president needs to be well-versed in every aspect of Temple life and play an active role in it as well. Even though I know you volunteer at a number of other organizations, you must not have very much free time. Truthfully, you've really made the job look rather easy. I often marveled at your ability to focus at length on the tiniest details. You have an unbelievable amount of patience. You are wise, practical, and have a very generous manner that allows you to give everyone a chance to be heard. Shelley, I've been on the board with you these past 3 years and have seen firsthand how expertly you handle a diverse menu of agendas, personalities, and pressures. You were up to any challenge the job could throw you. I bet even a global pandemic were to break out during your presidency, you would take it in stride as just another agenda item. Thank you again for your dedicated leadership that you provided for our congregation the past 3 years. And our board would like to present you with a token of our appreciation for all your hard work.
Should I open it now?
Sure.
Thank you. Oh, look at the paper cut. Thank you so much. You're not obligated to complete the work, but neither are you free to abandon it. I think it's very appropriate for KO vote.
Yes,
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Now is the time to install next year's leaders. You will be the ones to bless us in the year ahead with your skills and commitment. I would like to invite Howard Eichenbaum to speak about Meg Silver, continuing chair of the Cemetery Commission.
Meg, congratulations on your election as chair of the Cemetery Committee. Your commitment and dedication to TSC as chair of the Cemetery Committee often goes unnoticed. However, you and your committee are a vital part of our religious life cycle. It is very important that we have a cemetery committee that can advocate for our traditions and customs. Your insight at board meetings on issues that impact TSC and its members is valuable. I value hearing your opinions at the meetings. I hope to see you soon at a temple event.
Mazel tov, Meg. You are officially reinstalled. And we now turn to those who are continuing in their roles as members at large. Heidi Mover, will you please come up to talk about Shella Haron?
Shella Haron has been serving as member at large during the current board term. We have depended heavily on her legal expertise as well as her genius for making legal terminology and concepts intelligible to those of us without legal backgrounds. This has been especially true this last year as we attempted to navigate the daily minutiae of how to keep our synagogue functional despite the ongoing pandemic. Shella has led us through the thicket of what-ifs and potential complications that arose each time the board discussed rental agreements for our tenants, service arrangements with contractors, and how to accommodate congregation members in celebrating each of the Jewish holidays. She has unerringly highlighted for us which considerations we need to prioritize and allowed us, step by step, to make a path to follow forward to keep the temple not only alive, but thriving.
Thank you, and now I'd like to call on Shella to speak about Heidi.
On behalf of the board, I'd like to thank Heidi Mover for her dedication to the temple, from offering her medical expertise as we try to figure out how to reconvene our congregation in person after COVID, to helping to organize the blood drive we did for the American Red Cross last fall despite the pandemic, to helping to plant the flower beds that beautify our temple. We appreciate all your contributions, Heidi. Thank you.
Thank you both for your willingness to take the time and effort to help lead our congregation. Congratulations, you are officially reinstalled. And now I'd like to officially install our new member at large, Phyllis Neufeld. Phyllis, come on up. Phyllis, I am so glad you agreed to join the temple board. As the chair of our Social Justice Committee since its founding in 2017, by far the largest committee in the temple which has had such an impact on our congregation and community at large, it makes perfect sense that you be an official presence on the board. This will enable you to communicate all the good work which this committee does to our board on a regular basis. Thanks so much for all you have done and continue to do, furthering the goal of Tikkun Olam, helping our congregation do the mitzvot of helping to repair the world. Mazel tov, you are installed. Fran Bloomfield, continuing overachieving Temple fundraising co-vice president, will you please come up to speak about your co-vice president, Sheldon Cooperman?
Okay. We had to make adjustments to our fundraising plans this year, just like we pretty much had to do in every aspect of our lives. And the coffee house and yard sale couldn't take place. Sheldon usually takes charge of those events, and I know that we all, Sheldon included, look forward to them returning. For our other fundraisers, Sheldon is always quick to jump in when anything needs to be done. For example, handing out gift bags, or driving around Burlington, or driving around other towns, delivering them all. And I am so appreciative that he is someone I can always count on. Thank you, Sheldon.
Now I'd like to call on Sheldon to virtually speak about Fran.
I'm here to talk about Fran Bloomfield, co-fundraising chair for the temple. I suppose I could just go through all the years and all the events Fran has organized for fundraising for TSE, how she manages pretty much every year to surpass whatever the budget that the board sets for her. regardless of circumstances. How in this past year, despite the pandemic, she once again managed to rise above the difficulties of trying to fundraise during COVID. No yard sale, no coffee house, but apparently no problem for Fran to get it done regardless. But it's said that a picture is worth 1,000 words. So rather than me rattling on, I think I'll cede the rest of my time to this.
Thank you both for all of your efforts. Don't look now, but you are reinstalled, along with Dahlia, our official temple mascot. I would now like to call up Hal Torman, who will be thanking Michael Singer, who is continuing in his role as our Crackerjack recording secretary. So come on up, Michael and Hal.
The temple and its historians are eternally grateful for the meeting minutes and related committee documents compiled and authored by the recording secretary. Michael has graciously performed these important duties in the past years and is once again stepping up to be our chief recorder. His knack of synthesizing scintillating board and general meeting discussions into minutes that are fit to print is nothing short of amazing. And similarly, he somehow finds le mot juste, the right words to put in the Zoom chat box for motions emanating from rambling discussion. From Michael, the adage of GIGO, garbage in, garbage out, is more like garbage in, great out. So Michael, the board can't promise any improved content in the coming year, but we know your editing skills will compensate, and if anything else, please the historians. We thank you for your many years of past service and look forward to many more.
Thank you, sir.
Switch places, and Michael is going to thank Hal, our continuing wonderful temple treasurer.
Okay. What a distinct honor and privilege it is to say a few words about Hal Torman. Hal began his tenure as TSE treasurer in FY 2017, which means he began in July 2016. For 5 years, Hal has been at the fiscal helm for TSE. I know the challenge is to balance my family checkbook and staying on top of my invoices and due dates. What has always amazed me has been Hal's ability to explain the seemingly complex aspects of temple finances to the board and the temple membership at our general meetings. A famous activist once said, "Wisdom is knowing what to do next. Virtue is doing it." You, sir, proved to be both wise and virtuous. Hal has done so much for the temple behind the scenes to improve our collective fiscal position. Thank you, Hal, for helping to steer into existence the TSE Rainy Day Fund, the TSE Prior Year Surplus Fund, for successfully applying and being granted 2 PPP loans. Thank you, Hal, for updating temple insurance coverage, getting us better coverage at a lower rate. Thank you for monitoring our utility and exploring ways to continue to save on the TSE utility spend. And to top it off, spearheading the recent efforts to refinance the temple mortgage, bringing both our interest rate and monthly payments to all-time lows. Hal is a wonderful member of the TSE community, supporting a wide range of TSE events over the years. I can say with all sincerity, TSE is a better community with Hal Torman as a member and continuing to serve as our treasurer. Thank you, Hal.
Mazel tov, you are both reinstalled.
Thank you, sir.
Bob Eisenstein, I would like to invite you and Jeff Nussbaum to come up. Bob will thank Jeff as our continuing financial secretary, and Jeff will thank Bob as our incredible vice president of House.
Hi. So after Susan, Jeff Nussbaum is the first member of TSE that I met when I joined a few years ago. I've realized since then that he's the kind of guy that every organization needs more of. Is he friendly? Yes. Is he willing to help? Almost always. I say almost because while he's always willing, sometimes it just can't happen. But everyone has that problem. Responsible? Absolutely. Knowledgeable? Pretty darn amazing. He and I are both techies, so I appreciate it that every time I ask him something, I get an honest, well-informed answer. I may not want to hear it, but it's worth listening to. I always learn something when I talk to Jeff. So we're not only fortunate to have Jeff in our congregation, we're very fortunate that he's willing to serve on the board. And I'm fortunate that he and I will be working together for another year. Thank you. Robert Eisenstein is a fairly new member of the Temple and has only just finished his first year on the board as Vice President for House. Bob, is it amazing what you have accomplished taking care of our Temple building and grounds? With Bob in charge, House is a lot more than trash pickup and snow removal. Bob immediately set off to have the Temple exterior painted and the ladies' room as well. He had the stairs at the little house replaced, got the parking lot repaired and sealed, added lighting improvements, and prepared the nursery school building for our new tenants from Mount Hope. He has kept all of our buildings in good repair, taking care of furnace breakdowns and hot water leaks. Now Bob is having our roof repaired under warranty, completing ventilation improvements and installing variable speed blowers for improved energy efficiency. I understand that heat and hot water in the restrooms will be coming next. Cheers from the audience. Outside the temple, a new handicap accessible ramp and railing are being installed. Bob will say that he didn't do all of this. He just organized it, but Bob made it happen. Bob found the volunteers. Bob worked with the donors. Bob hired the contractors. His energy has been amazing, and he does it all with such a cooperative spirit. As we start to come back to using the temple building in person, we will all be thrilled with the improvements. Thank you very much, Bob, and welcome back to the board. Thank you. Thank you very much.
We can't thank all of you enough for all the really incredible work that you've all done and the contributions you've all made to the temple on many levels, as you've just heard. I declare you all reinstalled. Now I'd like to invite up Meg Silver to come up and thank Howard Eichenbaum, continuing chair of LJL Lifelong Jewish Learning.
Howard Eichenbaum has done incredible, wonderful work organizing lifelong Jewish learning programs for a variety of instances in our community, and has done a wonderful job during this pandemic being able to have Zoom events. He's also helped out with safety and Torah Food and Schmooze, a whole bunch of wonderful programs to keep our adults engaged with their learning for the years to come. Thank you very much, Howard.
Thank you. And I would now like to invite our wonderful and amazing religious school co-chairs, Jen Snyder and Karen Eichenbaum, to speak about each other.
I would like to thank Karen Eichenbaum for working with me as co-chair of the Religious School Committee during this challenging pandemic year. Karen is smart, organized, innovative, creative person that knows how to think out of the box. She had to, especially during this challenging time, and came up with TSE curriculum boxes that we provided for each student to help aid in their learning Hebrew and Judaica during this remote academic year. Karen also knew how to always find the best deals. It was a pleasure working with Karen to help plan and organize crafts and education materials during these months for the students. Examples which included planting your own parsley plants, special crafts, or treats based on the holidays, which were all grade level dependent. Karen even made sure students who were not registered in the Hebrew school this year received something special and were not forgotten. Thank you, Karen, for all you did for the religious school this year. It was truly a pleasure to work with you. We made a great team.
Jen, your commitment and dedication to the religious school students during the past several years has been amazing. When I was first asked to be religious school co-chair during a pandemic school year, I only said yes because I knew you were going to be by my side. This was one crazy year that we had to plan for, but with you in the lead, we did it. And the parent surveys confirmed what we already knew. the year was a success. Most of the tasks that you take on head on go unnoticed, even to me. But I know what you do, the time commitment that you make, and most of all, the fun we had putting together the curriculum bags and boxes. I look forward to another fun year working with you.
Congratulations, you are once again official. So I would now like to invite Val Jacobs to come up to speak about Ellen Finkelman, our continuing religious and ritual chair, and I'd like to invite Ellen Finkelman to come up to thank Val Jacobs, our continuing vice president of membership.
Ellen, it is a pleasure to thank you for your continuing dedication and hard work as Religious and Ritual Committee Chair. Ellen collaborated very closely this past year with the rabbi to find endless ways for our Shabbat and holiday services to come alive with meaning and a sense of community. Ellen's dedication to the temple community extended further than the R&R committee. This year, Ellen was also a member of the Budget and Social Justice Committees, as well as being our official challah maker. Thank you, Ellen, for all of your hard work on behalf of a very grateful community.
Val, your sunny disposition and always knowing the perfect way to express yourself makes you the ideal membership and outreach chair. You are always one of the first to volunteer when anything needs to be done. I want to thank you for being membership chair these last few years and all your efforts that you have done on behalf of the TSC community. Also, as a dear friend of mine, I am selfishly happy you are not moving and continuing as a member of the board.
We are too. We're very happy to be here.
We are truly blessed to have you both as part of our community. I gratefully reinstall you. Mazel tov. Oh, and Val, as long as you're up here, I'd like to invite you to thank Gail Wolf, continuing in her role as sisterhood representative on the board.
Okay. Gail, a few years ago, when Sue Mayo suggested that our community make an effort to rejuvenate sisterhood, Gail was one of the first to raise her hand and gather together to set a plan in place. Gail answered the call of the newly established Sisterhood Steering Committee to update Sisterhood's bylaws. With updated bylaws in place, Sisterhood started hosting many successful activities. COVID found Sisterhood Zooming cooking classes led by Ellen. And we wanted to thank you, Gail, for continuing to represent Sisterhood on the board, and we all appreciate all of your efforts for our community.
I can't tell you how great it is to have everybody up here speaking with each other as opposed to seeing you in little boxes on the screen. At this point, I'd like to thank Mindy Stanley, our past Temple president, who took on the unenviable role of nominating chair. Getting as wonderful a slate as this is not as easy as one might think, but as we say every year, all's well that ends well. Thank you for all your hard work, and thank you for taking on the role of our new B'nai Mitzvah tutor for the year ahead and for all the other ways you help our Religious and Ritual Committee and the Temple. And I wanted to also give a shout out to our Temple matriarch, Phyllis Burlow, who is usually here with us this evening, but she's still recovering from surgery. So she's quite a beloved member of the congregation, and we always like to include her in our installation. So we are now officially reinstalling her as our Temple matriarch. Ben Silver, would you please rise? Ben, as always, you have continually gone out of your way to help us musically, this year having the extra challenge of figuring out how to teach music to our Zoom religious school, making extra recordings for kids to sing along with for their class service, coming in almost every week to record new songs for our Shabbat services, as well as spending well over a year of training for each of our B'nai Mitzvah students whose services had to be postponed. You have rolled with the punches without ever complaining, even when I tease you about wearing the same 2 ties, one of which is appearing this evening, and the same jacket, which is appearing again this evening, over the past 15 months. Your caring goodness, kindness, flexibility, easygoing nature, and open-mindedness helps to set a wonderful tone for our congregation. I gratefully reinstall you as our cantorial soloist.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And I would now like to call on Shelley Rosenbaum Littman to come up to thank our wonderful continuing First Vice President, Jeremy Kasanoff.
Jeremy, this year I was fortunate to have you at my side to help guide the temple. I could always count on you to speak up and provide great points on any issue. Your background of being past house chair for many years gave you great insight into building issues, and I valued what you said. When we started considering reopening, I asked you to chair the reopening committee, and you stepped right up and coordinated that despite being really busy preparing for Hayden's bar mitzvah. I'm so glad you're staying on as first VP. Thank you so much, Jeremy.
Don't go far. And Shelley, as long as you're up here, I have the honor of installing you as our immediate past president. You'll be the one to advise the temple president and help be the institutional memory for issues and procedures. I'm sure Andy will appreciate your support in the year ahead. Mazel tov, you are installed and relieved, and I have to say, not that you're anxious to assume this position, but the other day when we were on a Zoom call and I said hi, you didn't say hi, you said 23 days. Not that you're counting them down or anything, but you're not out of it completely because we're just putting past in front of that name president.
Okay, thank you.
Mazel tov.
Thank you.
I would now like to invite Sheldon Cooperman to thank his co-brotherhood president, Michael Singer.
Hi, I'm here to talk a little bit about Michael Singer, who's the co-president of the Brotherhood. He has been the Brotherhood president for pretty much as long as I've belonged to the temple, which has been quite some time. And he really is the glue that continues to keep the Brotherhood together after all these years. Whether it's leading a Purim carnival, food volunteers, running the Brotherhood Mother's Day brunch, which we used to do for a number of years, or playing Susan as the rabbi at the Brotherhood service that we do every year. Michael's always willing to step up and volunteer both his time and his effort with his good spirits, just to help ensure that these events go off without a hitch. And for those of us who get to participate with him in these events, he also makes them a whole lot of fun as well. Personally, he's someone who values friendships, relationships, and I'm proud to call him not only co-brotherhood president, but also a good and dear friend of mine.
And I would now like to invite Michael Singer to come up and thank his co-brotherhood president, Sheldon Cooperman.
A few words about Sheldon Cooperman. First off, I would say that I'm distinctly honored to have Sheldon as my friend. Sheldon is a great asset for the TSE community. When asked, Sheldon is there to help. Both Sheldon and I share the spirit that the TSE Brotherhood should be there to support the TSE community, be it at a Brotherhood Mother's Day brunch, making pancakes for a religious school event, ushering during the holidays, or even painting the bathrooms. Sheldon is there working to make TSE a better place. I would like to thank Sheldon for his support of the Brotherhood Shabbat services. I deeply appreciate the spiritual joy and passion Sheldon brings with his music to the Brotherhood service. Now, if I can only get him to deliver the Devar. Sheldon and I are looking forward to a new year with the TSE Brotherhood. Now that we are exiting from our collective COVID isolation, please look for upcoming announcements on future Brotherhood activities. Please bring your ideas and excitement. I look forward to re-engaging the Brotherhood in the upcoming year and working with my friend Sheldon.
I declare you both Brotherhood presidents. Mazel tov. Now, I'd now like to invite Andy Feit, our continuing incoming Temple president, to come on up.
Continuing? Incoming?
Incoming. Did I say continuing?
Yes.
Oh.
He said
Sorry.
Try again.
All right, take two. Andy, it was a little over 3 years ago that you suddenly showed up on our doorstep during our brotherhood service. What a connection. Segue. I remember you being a little confused when I greeted you at the door while the service was going on and told you that I was the rabbi. I quickly explained that that was the only service of the year when I'm not the usher and not on the bima, and that it takes 20 men to do what I usually do by myself.
She did say that.
I know you were going to tell us more about why you decided to come to our temple, but I remember that night you sat toward the back of the room, and so I could hear you singing during the service. And not that this never happens, that a total stranger walks in and starts singing all the Hebrew prayers with a really nice loud voice, but it never happens. I remember offhandedly saying, oh, by the way, we also have a temple band, which you might be interested in, and that seemed to pique your interest. You said you were temple shopping and that you may come back a second time to see a more typical service. I believe you came back a couple of weeks later when I was leading a service and people introduced themselves to you. Again, you said you may be back, but no promises. After you showed up again, I offered to meet with you sometime to tell you more about the temple. And you took me up on that offer, and I think we talked for 2 or 3 hours, which was a ridiculous amount of time to talk to somebody I didn't know about the temple. I kept emphasizing getting involved in the temple band, which I know was the activity you enjoyed the most in your previous congregation. I know you were going to tell us more about what happened then, but I felt that at that point I could be cautiously optimistic that I had roped you in. I mean, help you realize that this would be your new temple home. From that very beginning, I knew you were going to be a tremendous asset to our community and that I would enjoy working with you. Not only have you added so much to the temple band and been a good sport about singing every time we asked you to, but you've got great people skills, you play well with others, and are really good at making new friends. Your upbeat personality makes everyone feel happier and more optimistic. You have a very strong Jewish identity and find fulfillment in being part of a temple community. You are very intelligent, very successful in your career in high-tech marketing and management, currently serving as the Vice President of Aqua Security. You are a great writer, you are very reliable, and as you say, put 110% of yourself into everything you do. But best of all, we agree on almost everything.
Almost.
Almost. None of us knew it, but your roles in the temple this past year have enabled you to learn a lot about our congregation. As announcements editor, we have been speaking every week about all the committees and events at the temple. Through our FAB group, you have met a lot of people. You have been at many in-person services. You even helped me a lot prepare for last year's virtual high holiday services, including reading Torah for one of them. I've already been asking your opinion on a lot of temple-related matters and programs. And most importantly of all, you helped install our Nest thermostats 2 years ago so we wouldn't be having temperature wars during services. All of this can account for your meteoric rise to temple president after only being a member for 3 years and on the board for 1. I believe you are totally ready for this big leap, and our temple community is totally ready to benefit from all the qualities you will bring to this position. I am personally looking forward to working with you in this new capacity and pray that we will continue to agree as much as we have so far. You are hereby officially installed. Mazel tov to you and all of us, and you may speak.
Okay. Thank you. It is true that I've only been a member at TSE for just under 3 years and on the board for just 1, but I thought I would share a little bit about my journey and why I'm happy to take on this important role. Susan stole some of the ideas, but basically after 25 years in California, I moved back to the East Coast 3 years ago. I had been very active in my prior Reform congregation south of San Francisco, singing in the choir, participating regularly in services, on the ritual committee. And when I told the rabbi there that I would be moving and that I would be working and living in Burlington, Massachusetts, she was thrilled to share that her colleague from rabbinical school had a small congregation there, and I just had to consider it for my future spiritual home. So as Susan said, I did come to a few before making any decision. I attended a few Shabbat services. I enjoyed hearing Ben's singing and playing guitar, leading the familiar melodies. And I especially found everybody just so welcoming of the new guy. The rabbi and I set up some time to talk, as she said, and she did tell me, you'll have to meet the band soon. Little did I know it would be the following day that she would call me at work and suggest that I come that evening to a last-minute recording of a song parody for Purim. Who remembers the Hamantashen versus the Latkes? What the heck, I thought, why not jump in with both feet and vocal cords too? So I did join that. In the short year before COVID arrived, I got to know many members through services and band and Purim spiels and fab dinners at Ellen and Richards, and so much more. Moving to a new place, starting things fresh, it was just a great way to establish connections and make some wonderful new friends. So over the last year, when the rabbi asked me to take on the communications role, I've gotten to know her very well. We speak nearly every week, as she said, preparing the announcements. There's definitely an alignment, but we don't agree on everything. I push back on some percentage of elements, and sometimes I have things that she's like, no, Andy, we're not doing that. While I was very surprised, given my limited history here, when Mindy approached me about following Shelley as the president, I was honored that the rabbi and the other members of the board were willing to trust me in this leadership role. So 2 other things I considered big positive as I mulled over that decision of whether I would take this on are worth sharing today. First, Temple Shalom Emeth is running incredibly well right now, right? Through a very challenging pandemic year, everyone has done so much to keep things on track, programs-wise, financially. It's just, it's sort of amazing. It could have gone very differently. And knowing that there is nothing that needs to be fixed. Normally when you take one of these roles, it's like, here are the things you have to get to right away. There's nothing like that. It's a big plus. And second, the current board, you just heard, nearly all of them are staying on in their same roles, and they're doing a fantastic job. So that's why one of the big reasons why we're in such good shape today, and I know that I can count on them to keep us moving forward over the coming year. So just to wrap up, let me share a few of the areas I believe we will need to focus on the next year. The elephant in the corner of the synagogue, or the moose on the bima, if you will, is figuring out the reopening. What will services look like as we emerge from lockdown? What about religious school this fall? On the topic of religious school, we need to look for some new teachers to support our growing enrollment. And I personally feel very strongly about increasing engagement in our social justice initiatives, as the last year has just shown us that there are several long-standing issues in this country and around the world that still are in much greater need of attention and effort to repair. So I look forward to working with you all, and thank you.
Don't go far. Thank you. One commentator of this week's Torah portion suggested that Korach's sin wasn't in wanting to be one of the leaders of the Israelite people. It was in thinking that by virtue of the title, it would make him holy. Moses and Aaron knew that their power and influence was dependent on their working hard every day to earn the trust of both God and the Israelite people. A title in and of itself means nothing. Its essence is in what you choose to do with it. We congratulate our congregation and ourselves that we've been blessed and continue to be blessed with people who are not only willing to hold the title, but who put the best of themselves into earning it every day. So now I'd like to invite our 2 presidents, Michael Singer and Andy Feit, to come on up and receive the blessing which Aaron bestowed upon his sons in last week's Torah portion, the priestly benediction. Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you. Ye'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichunecha. May God shine upon you and be gracious unto you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God lift up God's countenance to you and grant you peace. Amen. Mazel tov. Stay right here, because I think we need to sing
So too.
a little Siman Tov and Mazel Tov for everybody, and we all need to get.
We need to all fit in.
Yes.
Sure, come on in.
Siman Tov and Mazel Tov and Mazel Tov and Siman Tov. Siman Tov and Mazel Tov and Mazel Tov and Siman Tov. Siman Tov and Mazel Tov and Mazel Tov and Siman Tov. Yehidalu. Siman Tov and Mazel Tov and Mazel Tov and Siman Tov. Siman Tov and Mazel Tov and Mazel Tov and Siman Tov. Siman Tov and Mazel Tov and Mazel Tov and Siman Tov. Yehidalu. Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Ulechol Yisrael. Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Ulechol Yisrael. Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Ulechol Yisrael. Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Ulechol Yisrael.
Now I'd like to invite you two gentlemen to open the Ark curtain as we continue with the Aleinu on page 586. Please rise in body or spirit.
Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol. Latei gedula yotzer reshit. Shelo asanu ki goyei ha'aratzot. V'lo samanu b'mishlochot ha'adama. Shelo sam chelkeinu kahem. V'gor aleinu k'chol ha'amam. V'anachnu koreim. U'mishtachavim u'modim. Lifnei melech malchei hamlachim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Mazel tov.
Damar v'hayadonai l'melech al kol haaretz. Bayom hahu yehi Adonai echad u'shemo echad. V'ne'emar v'hayadonai l'melech al kol haaretz. Bayom hahu yehi Adonai echad u'shemo echad. Bayom hahu yehi Adonai, Adonai echad u'shemo echad. Bayom hahu yehi Adonai echad u'shemo echad. V'ne'emar v'hayadonai l'melech al kol haaretz. Bayom hahu yehi Adonai echad u'shemo echad. Echad u'shemo echad. Echad u'shemo echad.
The introduction to the Kaddish prayer may be found on page 599. We think now of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at the season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. We're called George Santo, brother of Agnes Bales, who died during this past month. We add to his name the names of those whose yahrzeits or anniversary of whose deaths occur this week. Florence Marcus Kiley, Elizabeth Wright, Olin Alton. And this time, if there are names of others who have died during this past week, this past month, or at the anniversary of their deaths occurring this week, you may say their names aloud.
Jake Diorio.
Dora Deutsch and Jordan Rosenbaum.
Zichronam livracha. May all of their memories be for a blessing. We turn to page 598 and rise in body or spirit to recite the Kaddish prayer. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shmei Rabbah, v'yalma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, v'agala u'bizman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam olmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei d'kudesha barichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran b'yalma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shmaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to our country, to all Israel and all the world, as we say together, amen. Actually, I'd like us to remain standing as we continue with the Kaddish on pages 122 and 123. Our new singing president is going to lead us in the Kaddish.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron l'maseh bereshit ki hu yom techila l'mikra'e kodesh zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim, kivanu v'acharta, v'yotanu kidashta, mikol hamim, v'shabbat kodshecha, v'yahava uvratzon, hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai, mikadesh ha-shabbat. Amen. L'chaim.
Thank you. And now I'd like to invite our religious and ritual chair, Ellen Finkelman, who of course made the challah again for this wonderful occasion, and even put pieces in baggies to give out to everybody after the service to lead us in the motzi.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you. You may be seated. And now, Andy, you need to come back up and
Wow.
because you're going to be
Putting me to work
singing
already.
a lot during services from now on as Temple singing president. So they're going to lead our closing song, which is Bayom Hahu, one of our favorite and most meaningful songs.
It's just another part of your meteoric ride. Everything is condensed here. This is a contemporary version of Bayom Hahu, which probably most of you have heard the Temple Band do, and we like it very much.
Though the time be far, I know that come it will, when each nation shall each other bless, and peace the earth shall fill. And God shall reign over the earth on that day. God shall be one, and your name it shall be one. Bayom Hahu Yeh Adonai Echad U'Shemo Echad. Bayom Hahu Yeh Adonai Echad.
And on the dawn of peace we'll smash the spear of war, and everyone beneath their vine and fig shall be afraid no more.
God shall reign over the earth on that day. God shall be one,
and your name it shall be one. Bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad. Bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad. And it shall come to pass that peace is what we'll find. And then we'll join our hands with everyone across the borderline. And God shall reign over the earth on that day. God shall be one, and your name it shall